Hello all, and another video for today, and this time on the recent visit of Mark Carney, Premier of Canada, to Ireland, and his meetings with An Taoiseach Micheál Martin, who is the current Prime Minister of Ireland. So these were very friendly meetings that took place between our two states and have largely gone under the radar in most cases, with a lot of people saying they were merely symbolic. And yes, nothing major was fully agreed to, but you wouldn't expect that. However, the fact that the head of state, the leader of a foreign government, would take the time out of their very busy schedule to come here to Ireland is something of note to us. So why is this meeting more important than it looks? Well, first off, it opens up Ireland to the Canadian market more so. The European Union and Canada already have in place a trade agreement that still needs to be ratified by some states within Europe, including Ireland. The hold up in Ireland is because of legislation that needs to be passed through our Parliament that is on the way through it and should be ratified fairly soon. Nevertheless, thanks to this agreement, we should be able to have more connections between ourselves and Canada. And this meeting was basically to highlight some of these connections that both governments want to put into place as soon as the ratification process has come to an end. So the first one is AI. Here in Ireland, internet is basically pervasive. We have it everywhere. Like I'm in the middle of a park here making a video on my phone, and I've got full internet access due to the broadband that is available through my phone provider. This is common for most Irish people. It'd be very rare you go to a place, at least inside the major cities, where you wouldn't be able to get internet access. And any place that you can't get direct internet access through your broadband, you will basically be able to link up to the Wi-Fi of nearby businesses. So the internet is very, very important to our economy and to our way of life here. Coupled with that is the fact that AI is a growing industry here. We have got quite a few large-scale server farms, and despite the environmental damage this can do to us, we are still investing quite a lot in that branch of our economy. On the other side of the coin, however, Canada is lagging behind when it comes to these issues, whereas internet access is fairly widespread in Canada. The use of AI in business and on a large scale has Canada ranked one of the lowest in the G7. And so this partnership is really important, especially over the fact that the Canadians don't want to be reliant on the Americans for this aspect of their economy, which is a topic I'll be getting back to in just a minute. The second thing is pharma. Ireland produces quite a lot of pharmaceuticals. We've got some very large plants, admittedly American plants, throughout the country. And we mainly supply into the European market, though we do a lot of business into the American market, both for the United States and with Canada. So having closer connections with pharma opens up the doors of this large market to the Irish economy. The final thing that really came up, other than of course the usual about financial services and the like, which is kind of standard for most Irish deals, because we do a lot of business in banking and finance also, it was the food supply. Ireland produces quite a lot of food that we export, and we import quite a lot of food. Canada is basically the same, but the uniting together, coming up with unified strategies is only a logical thing for two economies that most people would classify as mid-range. Now, like, Ireland has a population of about 5 to 6 million, whereas Canada has a population of about 40 to 45 million. So despite the fact that the populations are much larger, and the GDP is ranking in or around the same between the two constituencies. So what's this actually pretend to? Well, first off, it allows Ireland greater access to the Canadian market, obviously, but also it allows Canada not only greater access into Ireland, but also to use Ireland as a gateway into the European Union, which is something that we have been really promoting here in Ireland for businesses from outside of the Union ever since Brexit. There was a day where the UK would have been seen as the natural choice to make connections into the EU if you're an English-speaking country, but now Ireland is seen as the first choice, and this meeting highlights the importance of that. The second part of it is the fact that Canada has been in a position up until recently that we were in for a long time in our history, over-reliant on a larger neighbour. Economically, we were over-reliant on the UK, with 90% of our trade going in and out of the UK up until the 1970s, where we joined the European Economic Community, and we started to diversify our portfolio. Canada had the same problem in that they are overly reliant on the United States, and now they're trying to, thanks to the mismanagement, you could say, of the Trump administration, they are trying to branch out to create more connections to other parts of the world, more business deals, more trade avenues. So this is a step in that direction for Canada, a step that we already took going back, 50 years ago now, and has only been a good thing for Ireland. We can only wish the best for Canada. That's the second aspect to this. The third aspect is something that kind of flew under the radar even within this report, which is that Mark Carney himself is the grandson of Irish immigrants who went to Canada in the 1920s. So it's the Irish diaspora again linking up with Ireland. It's something that we haven't heard too much about recently, and it hasn't really been in the fore, but it's something that's going to become more and more important as time goes by, particularly with the looming potential crisis on the horizon of the unification vote with Northern Ireland that could be coming up anyway in the next 10 to 15 years. So Ireland's going to need as many friends outside of our own little island as we can get, particularly with this on the horizon. So having good friends in Canada and relations there is an important part of our overall culture and our overall strategy for geopolitics. So what does this basically say? Well, in the end of the day, it's a diversification away from the US. From the Irish position, it's a balancing act. Just like the video I made about the Aluma factory in Limerick, where this factory was selling aluma, key components, aluminium, to smelteries in Russia, which are probably being used in weapons against Ukrainians. The Irish are not really in a position to be too picky sometimes. While we all support Ukraine, and there's a cry across Ireland to get this trade in aluma to be cut off, it's still, business-wise, it is still something that the Irish business community are nervous about doing, not because that we need the trade with Russia. We don't do that much trade with Russia on the whole, but that we need to keep open our options with trading with other partners around the world. in particular the United States, and growingly so, in particular with Mercosur in South America, and with China. You can have principles and stick by them, but when you're a small country, you have to go with reality too, unfortunately. And despite the fact that, as I said, most Irish people would like to see this factory stop producing Illuma and sending it to Russia, it's until they're actually forced to do so, not much is going to happen there. The same goes in this case for our relationship between Canada and the USA. We rely on a lot of inward investment from the United States, particularly from large businesses, and being seen as part of what could potentially be viewed as an anti-American alliance led by Canada to diversify economics away from the United States is something that we'll have to be very, very, very careful of. The last thing we need is for the US to pull out of its investment out of Ireland, which would cause a huge shock to our system. So, despite that, we still need to keep, as I said, our options open. So this whole procedure and this whole meeting is basically analysing options. Nothing has been decided. It is just talking about things that are of joint interest between ourselves and Canada. It's not supposed to be seen as an anti-American alliance or as an attempt to create an alternative system to what we have in the world at the moment. But as Mark Carney said in Davos, mid-sized economies need to band together in the world today, or else, and these are my words, they will be picked off. So this is something that I think Ireland is very interested in, and we're happy to talk to the Canadians about it. Right, that's it. Have a nice day.